Got our Kevin on the
Yeah.
Kevin.
Welcome to Turn Extension, a supplemental podcast for the Advanced Maneuvers YouTube channel.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Turn Extension. My name is Tony, or Polar Bear Cub on the forums.
Hey everybody, Kevin Daldark on the Forbes.
Hey everybody, it's Devin Cutthroat Cure on the forums.
Alright, so today our topic is the end of 2016 meta, right? I said it right?
Yeah, so basically we've seen the errata for January that came out. We've seen the Scorn errata, we've got all of our theme lists, and for the most part, basically what we're looking at today is the way the end of 2016 will finish, because once we get to lock and load in July, we'll be shifting over to the Steamroller 2017 packet, which will change the meta, as well as potentially the 6-month errata during that time frame. So for the next 5 months, since we're at the tail end of January, we're kind of in a locked meta. Like, where do we see things playing out? What's going to happen? What factions are going to be doing what for the next 5 months?
Yeah, the only thing that we're going to really see that's going to be different will be with releases, since we definitely have the command books coming out, and that should have some new releases of models. But otherwise, where we stand currently with rules as they are and theme forces are locked in up until lock and load in July.
I like it. So I find that interesting because, yeah, like pretty much what you said is that we're going to get new releases with these command books. Obviously, it's going to add new theme forces, too, for every command book we get. So that'll be nice. But overall, yeah, this is really what the meta is for the next couple of months. Because I even think even with new caches coming out, I think this is going to have an impact on the meta. But once it starts getting closer to June, I don't think it's going to have as great of an impact because we're going to see a change in, and possibly another errata update come June. We're going to see, and we're also going to see, the steamroller shift come June timeframe.
I don't know if the command books are necessarily going to have huge of an impact, only because we've gotten one of the two theme forces that's in the command books.
No, not necessarily. Some of them were actually brand new theme forces that aren't going to be in the theme books.
So wait, we got a theme list that's not going to be in the command books, because
my understanding of it, some of these that came
every
out,
theme list that we've seen up to the point, including the Menoth ones, were out of the command book.
So my understanding of it was
he's saying that we've already gotten one of them. There will be a second one in the theme book.
Right, and my understanding of it was that some of these are a third theme list. That some of that the ones that are coming out in the theme book might not necessarily be the ones that we've already seen.
Well, and they did say that we need to...
That's my understanding. I could be wrong.
Well, and they did say we need to... we do need to get kind of used to the concept of not having linear approach. Not everybody's not going to get a colossal. Everybody's not going to get a heavy. Theoretically, everybody's not going to get just two theme forces. So, I mean, I guess the potential is there. That just feels weird to me, and that's I'm just pulling off of previous experience of everything's always been linear, that change of not having everything linear. Because if you're saying that the people are going to get two new ones in their command books, then it's a situation where some factions are going to have more than others, which in actuality that already exists right now because Mercs has 3, whereas some factions only have 1.
So, I mean, it's definitely interesting to think about when you consider it, because as I said, when we did one of our earlier podcasts, we definitely noted that the trolls were getting the Sea King and not a new character War Beast, and then we knew that the Menoth was getting a new character and not a Colossal. So, I mean, it definitely seems like they're mixing it up a little bit, and that idea of not everybody being linear, as you said, Kevin, definitely holds some strong weight.
I think it's interesting, yeah, and that's been weird because that's the only one we've actually seen that has gotten a Colossal, not a character, so far, from what we've been shown up until, I think, April. Have we seen the new stuff for April yet?
Let me look real quick while you guys
April
talk.
is going to be Kador and Crix, I believe. We know that Crix is getting Morton number 2 and Charybdis.
Yep.
And Kador is getting Strakov 2.
And they show their...
I don't think they've shown the character Jack that Kozlov's getting.
Okay. So there's a chance that Kador might be getting another Colossal then at that point. But up until that point, we've seen character jacks or character beasts for pretty much all the factions has been revealed except for Trolls, which
Something tells me Cater's not going to get their. Something tells me Cater's not going to get their an alt colossal because they're not going to. Let me rephrase that. I wouldn't expect them to release a third colossal right on the heels of them finally getting out the plastic kit for the 2 that they have.
That's true. Yeah, and there's a good chance, yeah, like which says that they won't get another one. I'd be curious if that did happen. I think that'd be kind of neat because then it would keep changing that thing where, hey, look, just because everybody else is getting this character track except for Trolls, that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone will. I'm really excited for March time frame because March means I get to see Brick House and Kane 3 personally. That's going to clearly shape the meta.
All right, yeah. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being in every single list, 1 being never in a chance in hell, how often do you actually think Brick House is going to hit the table?
Well, I mean, we haven't seen the rules yet, but if it was just based on what the model looked like, it'd be a 1. But I have a feeling that I think it's going to be a good enough model where it's probably going to be like a 6 or 7, where you're going to see in a decent amount of lists, I think. At least starting out, because I feel like whenever you get a new model, people are really excited. Everyone wants to throw the model in, especially if it's perceived that it's going to be good. And the same way I feel with Kane 3. Like, I feel like Kane 3 has, just from what we've been told with Calamity, and we know that, hey, he also has, Ryan and Watts. Like, and Watts has a rifle. That's kind of cool. Like, I think that's going to show that, hey, this, like, we're going to see him really kind of shape the Signar meta. Because right now, the Signar meta is really dead. And I think with that errata that came out, I'm sorry, let me take that back. It's not dead, but I feel it's more stagnant than I would like to see, personally.
So, Kador is not getting a new jack.
They're not getting a new jack at all?
Nope. Providing the foundation every Kador player needs, Forces of Warmachine Kador Command features a complete listing of all current Warcasters and Warjacks released to date, in addition to 2 new Warcasters, which we know one of which is Strakov 2.
And the other one's Malikov, I think his name is. That's the other one.
Yep. Yeah, Malikov 2.
A new Greylord Man of War Solo, which we just saw.
Okay.
And a selection...
Oh, yeah, I completely forgot about Angry Santa.
Yeah, and a selection of new core units and solos from the faction. Oh, no, sorry. And a selection of core units and solos from the faction. So they're only getting 2 new Warcasters and the new Greylord Man of War Solo.
Yeah, so Malikov 2, Strakov 2, and Angry Santa.
And what was the other one? What was the other faction?
It was Crix, which we saw Crix is getting the tentacle monster. Morton Eber 2.
Charybdis and Morton Eber 2, yes.
Yep.
Which both of them look awesome.
They do. They really do.
Did anybody else notice that Morton Eber 2 had a lot of similarities to the Crypt Horrors from Necrons, from the Forge World Crypt Horror?
I don't know. I've never played 40K.
Yeah, there's actually been I've noticed an increase in bug-centricness of lists, like Scorn get new bugs, Crix gets a caster with bug body.
Yep, just two new Warcasters, a new character Warjack. So we know that. So it's going to be Iacos 2, Morton Eber 2, and that tentacle dude.
Interesting.
So if we know all this, we know what's coming out. We know that Circle is getting Unatoon, Loki, and all that stuff. Let's take a second before we dive into the factions. Let's take a second and ask, what do we see the table meta looking like? Currently, right now, we're seeing a lot of people who are still playing with the concept of heavy jacks or heavy beasts in their lists. Do you think that's going to hold out for the next 6 months? Is there going to be a contingent? Like, I know some of the theme lists that are out there really help to improve the jacks, like the jack list. So Retribution's got one where they're getting shield guards. Cater's got the winter guard, which is supposed to be the infantry one, but everybody seems to be using it to get advanced move jacks. But then at the same flip side, you've got other lists like Crix, who seem to be trying to push infantry, or Kingmaker and Operation Theater that are trying to push infantry to gain bonuses on things. So are we going to stay in a jack meta for the next 5 months, or is that going to shift?
I feel like Jack's still really going to be prevalent a lot of the time because there's a lot of anti-infantry stuff. Now, granted, if you start seeing the shift in a lot more Jacks, then eventually, obviously, the infantry meta will surface because everyone's going to be focused on high power, low volume of attacks probably to try to blast through that. And then you're going to see more and more infantry come up. But I think until then, I'm not sure. I mean, at least I know from my side playing through Convergence, like our new theme force is just begging for more and more jacks. Like it is such an awesome theme force. And it really just pushes where, hey, here are jacks, and hey, here's a bunch of shield guards for you for jacks. Have fun.
Did you you never responded to me? Did you like that Father Lucant list that I sent over to you?
I actually did. I liked it a lot. I'm debating about how to get that many Eliminator servitors to my house soon.
And for the sake of those listening, can you go over that list real quick? Or
yeah, I'm actually pulling it up right now. So let's see. So it's a Father Lucant. So it had the corollary because obviously you need to. Prime Axiom.
Corollary, because Convergence.
Yep, because Convergence. Prime Axiom, 38 points. So right there, you've used, what was it, about all 28 points. All 28 points. And then you have the Inverter. Then you get 2 TEPs. And then with that, you end up getting, you also put in the Algorithmic Dispersion Opt effect. So it's the ADO, the solo that allows you to channel spells. And then you end up getting, was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? You get 5. Oh, 4 of them are elimination servitors. And then 1 is a reflex servitor. And then you also get an Optifix directive unit to heal your jacks up and give them Pathfinder. And that is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's so basically what ends up is you're running a Colossal who can poop out, attunement servitors, because you'll know there was no attunement servitors in his list. Which actually is an interesting scenario because if you pop out an attunement servitor, you're popping out a shield guard. Mm-hmm. So he can theoretically pop out his own shield guard every turn if you were worried about it. But you get a Colossal to play with, and Father Lucant's he's got, is it Polarity Shield? What's the one that he allows you to improve damage?
No, he has shield guard.
No, what's the Father Lucant's spells?
Give me a second, I'm pulling it up. It's been a while since I played with them.
Damn it.
I know. I'm awful at this. Alright, so Father Lucant has Deceleration, so +2 armor against range of magic attacks. Discontinuity, which it gives you Dispel on your melee weapons. Disillusion Bolt, so you can stop channeled spells. Positive Charge, which is probably the one you're thinking of.
Yep.
That gives you +2 melee attack and melee damage rolls while within 3 inches. Everybody else within 3 inches of them gets +2 attack and damage rolls. And then finally, Watcher. So Polarity, Positive Charge is really the big one that you're going to put out. And if you put it out on the Prime Axiom, it's nice because it covers a wider range of area. And
well, I wouldn't necessarily discredit Watcher on an Inverter that has a knockdown pummeler.
And that's nice. Yeah, Watcher on an Inverter is really cool because it allows you to, attack. Also, actually, what's really cool, too, is this is an interesting one. I think if I'm reading this correctly, make 1 basic melee. So you can Watcher actually on the Prime Axiom and drag somebody in and then hit them, I believe. Because it's a range attack. So Watcher affects 1 basic melee or range attack targeting the enemy model.
So, but you're looking at using Watcher to trigger the drag to pull. So if somebody tries to be cute and be 6 inches away from the Prime Axiom for whatever reason, then trigger Watcher and they drag it in so that they're base to base.
Correct.
The only thing I worry about is that Watcher that the shooting is not necessarily without an attunement servitor to drop the defense. I'm not necessarily trusting that Harpoon to actually pull off that hit.
No, and I agree with you on that. And what I was thinking is I'm not sure if the drag effect will work where immediately as soon as I pull them in, if I can even hit them afterwards. Because I should be able, I think I can hit them with a melee attack because it's part of the drag, but I'm not 100% positive. So someone listening to this, correct me if I'm wrong.
I think the Watcher on the Inverter is a little bit more interesting because you have potentially a better chance of sticking it than the range shot with the Harpoon. And unlike with the Harpoon, when you drag them in and even if you do get the hit, they're still going to be able to get their follow-up attacks. The Inverter, if he comes in and knocks you down, you're done. Like you don't get to do attacks.
True, very, very, very true. But you got to make sure that you're paying attention on when you use the pummeler, because if you used it earlier that turn, then all of a sudden you can't use it because it's only good for a round. Once per round.
Yeah, so that in that situation, you're only looking at a scenario where you've used the pummeler because you already beat something up earlier.
Yep.
So your line of engagement is already set. Watcher usually is most effective in that first engagement scenario where something comes in to try and take on the Prime Axiom or a TP or something like that, and the Averter's like, no, you don't, bitch, and then charges in and knocks you down.
True, very true.
So, but anyways, before we spend the next 30 minutes talking about COC, the biggest thing I liked about the list was the fact that LeConte provides Shield Guard with his battle group, and then the theme list provides Shield Guard to all of the little servitors. So it becomes a scenario of you as the COC player get the ability to determine where shots go. So already your army's under decel, which makes shooting even more miserable. But it becomes a scenario of if somebody's going to shoot a little pea shooter shot at an elimination servitor that you don't want to have die, you can have it go to the Prime Axiom. The Prime Axiom giggles at the POW 10. Or somebody turns around and does a big cannon shot on your Prime Axiom or TP, and then all of a sudden your little servitor is taking that shot. He dies, but who cares? It's a little servitor. Prime Axiom will spit out another one next turn.
That's very true.
So it allows the COC player to really set set where the damage goes. So you have to engage them, and that's really where the Prime Axiom and TEPs excel, is when your opponent is forced to come within range.
That's perfect. I like that. No, you're right.
So anyways, from a rule of thumb, I know that we're going to see a lot of jacks. Are we expecting to see a lot of beasts? Like, I've seen a lot of people who, especially with the Squadronata that's coming out, like, they're doing beasts, but I'm starting to see more and more infantry creeping in. You know, a lot of people were doing I'm going to do jacks in one unit, or, you know, jacks one unit solos and stuff like that, and I'm starting to see a couple lists on the Horde side, which are more, I'm going to do some beasts and then maybe 2 units or 3 units. Devin, on the Trollblood side, are you seeing a little bit more action in the infantry realm?
I am actually. I've been spending a lot of time to my own deferment on the Trollblood forums, just reading some of the lists that people have released, just because I was really curious with when they dropped the new theme list how prevalent they were going to be, and I have to say that I haven't seen. I've seen maybe one list that didn't involve either Band of Brothers or the Power of Dunya. So a lot of like extra solos. I'm seeing a lot of Northkin shamans being painted up because, you know, hey, you're getting them for free. So then now they're worth it, you know, because before, you know, maybe people weren't believing their points were exactly there. But now that you can bring, you know, 1 or 2 of them for absolutely free to your list, now they have more of a purpose, you know?
That's interesting.
And, of course, we're always seeing Fen Blades and stuff like that, but I'm starting to see more people trying to put their Long Riders in, which, you know, I thought we were going to see less Long Riders with the changes to, you know, the bowling, being able to bowl through your own people, but, you know, because of the theme force, I see something completely separate, that they're taking them for, you know, more or less their own personal abilities on that matter. So I still wish that Long Riders were, you know, had 2-inch reach, because they're the only infantry that doesn't have that. I mean, the only cavalry that doesn't have 2-inch reach. So that's kind of upsetting.
That is a little upsetting.
Isn't that more because of the fact of, unlike some of the other cavalry, we're going to exempt storm lances because fuck storm lances.
Hey, whoa.
The other cavalry aren't necessarily as impactful when it comes to the whole trampling, impact, slam abilities that the Tuffaloes bring to the table.
I can see that. I could definitely see that. I guess my thought process on it is not like the rules ever make sense when it comes to like how things look, but I always think like trolls are larger than anybody else, so therefore I would assume that they would have a longer reach. But
well, I mean, the model, even the axes on the models aren't necessarily short little Creole warrior axes either. So
no.
I don't know. It's always one of those things where it's like, why in the hell didn't the Tuffalo, like as the lines were being drawn and the battle was about to go, the drums are going, he reaches over to the warrior and goes, "Give me that fucking axe."
Yeah. I would like to see an infantry unit for trolls that actually have like spears or something.
I would like to see warders on Tuffalos. Armor 23.
Well,
That'd be interesting.
I can give you that through a custom job that I'm working on, but otherwise the rules won't benefit that.
No. But yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I've seen, I've been talking with Pokey a lot now that the Score Narada dropped, and he's been, using myself as a sounding board on what things look like they work and what don't. And I've been trying to learn Score, and I'm enjoying the fact that he's using me as a sounding board just because it gives me an opportunity to learn a faction that I'm expecting to see. I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that will be happening in this tail end of 2016 is we're going to see more Scorn on the table than we definitely did before.
Okay.
But let's actually, you know what, before I get into the Horde side, let's jump into the Warmachine side first, because Warmachine's cooler. I mean, we know that we're going to see a little bit more Jacks and stuff like that. I'm not necessarily thinking that we're going to see Colossals, but what do you think, where the powerhouses lie within Signar? How is Signar going to roll out in these next 5 months?
I mean, I'm not really playing very much right now, at least on the Signar side, so I'm not sure a lot what they're doing. I know Haley 2 is still really popular. Kara Stone's interesting. Kane 2's lost a lot of luster that they've had. So, I mean, it looks like it's still, good mix of it's going to be a lot of Jacks. But honestly, I really can't talk to what Signar is going to do because I really haven't been focusing my attention on Signar lately. Devin, do you have any insights on it?
On Signar, I mean, I've been, with a new baby, I haven't also been able to play a lot lately. So I would definitely say that talking to my own, local group recently, they've been talking a lot more about, who was it that we were talking about? It was, can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, just making sure. We were talking about, of course, Storm Lances, but it was also, I'm just looking it up. We were talking about Haley 2, and we were talking about trying to find the other caster that they've really been like.
I've seen a lot of discussions around Haley 2, Haley 3. Obviously, there's some discussions still hovering around Sloan, and I've seen an uprise in discussion about Striker 1 and Striker 2. But from a list perspective, I'm seeing a lot of people talking more about, with the exception of Striker 2, who's just a beat-faced badass, where the Signar players seem to be shifting to I'm going to play the scenario and wait for you to open up for an assassination. Like they're not planning for attrition in any way, shape, or form.
There was a lot of talk. They were talking a lot about Blaze with Knights in the new, and I'm not sure if she's available in the theme list, but they've been talking about just Blaze in general and how they really feel like she has a lot of play currently. So
feels like a gimmick list to me. Like I know Trevi the Great's he has an excellent post about Constance Blaze on Way of the Swan. If you're a Signar player and you're not reading Way of the Swan, you are doing it wrong. But to me, it feels like a gimmick list.
So could be interesting.
Khador, for the most part, seems to be what Khador's been doing in the past 6 months, which is armor, armor, armor. I'm going to slingshot into your face. I'm going to run the attrition game and just basically... I don't even know if it's necessarily... I haven't heard a lot of discussion about Khador's scenario. It's more just Khador taking it to the face until they can apply axe to face. It's a very Mark II approach, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
All right, what about next one? What about Minoff? Same thing as normal?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen too terribly much. A lot of people are still hyped up on High Reclaimer.
Okay.
Which is weird because the new Fiora came out, and I don't see, even though I've seen a lot of comments about, well, Fiora 3 invalidates 1 and 2, quote, circa, 2017 Gaston. Mm-hmm. I just don't, like, a lot of people are like, cool, this new model came out. Anybody building any lists on it? Nope. So, I think a lot of people are building more Tristan 2 lists than they are Fiora 3 lists.
Okay. What about Crix?
I'm really excited to see where Morton Nebra comes out. Morton Nebra 2 comes out with that because I think that'll show us a little bit of different play because obviously she's going to be more Jack oriented, So I would be really curious to see how much that changes up the meta.
I'm just going to go on record by saying PP fucking fix recursion.
Yeah, you're not too happy about recursion.
No, I'm a little bittersweet about it. More bitter than sweet.
A lot more bitter than sweet. But it's good reasons, but still better than sweet. Retribution.
After that theme force, they don't really need a lot changed. I mean, being able to have all of their jacks having shield guard is absolutely bonkers.
There's actually not been a huge interest in it. Like, a couple of people are looking at it, but you know, some of the main players and stuff like that haven't necessarily been too thrilled about it because they're like, yeah, I get shield guards, but I could do all these other things if I took it out of theme. Which I guess is kind of a scenario you want to have with theme forces. Like, I almost worry, and maybe these next 5 months will let us know, is like, I almost worry about a meta where it's like, oh, if you're not playing, you know, Band of Brothers, then why the fuck are you playing Trolls? Like, that seems dangerous to me.
Well, at least I think on Convergence end, because I'm going to jump to Convergence right now, whenever recursion changed, I think it really, for me personally, it really took where I don't like playing units as much. Or I play units, but not nearly to the crazy amount as I used to before. So I was really excited about doing more Jack heavy lists, and with this theme force, it's really just like, hey, here's your Jacks, and here's your TEP, both stuff you're going to be putting in the list, and oh, hey, when you do, you can get servitors in the list, which for me, it's always something I wanted in the list, but it never could quite justify the points for. It was always nice to have them, but I was like, I could put other stuff in here. Well, now I don't have to choose. Every 20 points of Jacks, I get a free unit of servitors, which is awesome. With 20 Jacks or the TEP. That just all filters into me getting more stuff.
Yeah, I think the inclusion of battle groups in that, or battle engines in that, really kind of accents the ability of that list being used regularly. Because you may get a caster who's like, I don't necessarily want to take a lot of Jacks, but I'd love a bunch of sprays that I can boost.
Yeah. And I think it's an interesting thing that they actually put the battle engine in the for the theme force, because me personally, I didn't think it was going to be part of the theme force at all. I was like, man, the TP is so good. Like, yes, you don't really see him very much because you just don't see a lot of Convergence players, but it's so good. I bought 2 of them. Like, I finally got my second one in like 2 months ago, I think. I'm so excited to get it together, get it on the table, and it's just the fact that I can also play that in the theme force. It's just made me extremely happy with like what's going on. It like, I don't know a reason why. I mean, obviously there's times where I wouldn't play the theme list, but a lot of the lists that I'm building that's getting me excited to play Convergence is because of this theme list.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that I'm worried about with Convergence, but I'm also worried about with Mercenaries, because on the Mercenaries front, I'm not seeing a lot of conversations about mercenary lists that doesn't include the words Kingmaker in it.
I mean, I think with Mercenary, it's more dangerous with Convergence because it's such a limited amount of models. You know, I think the theme force really helped to kind of cultivate something different within the meta, because a lot of this, actually, it might not have been done that much with Convergence, because a lot of the lists, at least I've been seeing and I've been making, have pretty much been just like this. So it just kind of reinforces, hey, this is good stuff. This is what you want to do. And until Convergence sees new models come out, it's not really going to shape up what we're doing, because we only have access to a very limited amount.
But does that help? Does that help a faction with limited numbers to be in a scenario where it always wants to take a theme list that limits their numbers even more?
I don't think for Convergence it's necessarily horrible. I don't think it's, you know, I think it, I don't know. For me, I don't see it as being a horrible thing, because you were kind of already seeing this, but now it diversifies the list a little bit, because now at least you're getting servitors in there, and then there's you know, it keeps you on, hey, what servitors will be best, and it's nice because you have different servitors for different things, and all 4 of them can really be used now.
When I'm going off with talking about, since we were talking about Kingmaker and stuff, something I have seen a lot recently of people painting up, because that's a lot of the times that's something I will try and watch for, that I see more of, is the new Rulik battle engine. I've seen a lot of people painting that up, so that makes me feel like maybe we're going to see a good bit more of those into in mercenary lists.
That'd be
But
nice.
again, it goes back to that scenario of, do we want to be in a situation where the meta is you either play the theme or you don't play it right?
I don't think we're going to see that meta because a lot of these theme forces aren't exciting. Like, they're good, but they're not great. I think specifically with my personal experience, at least with Convergence, it's because we don't have, hey, 50 other options where we can do, and like, hey, this theme force is nice, but it's not like it's not necessarily a faction defining. Like, I don't see that really happening with any of the other factions, except for specifically with Convergence and possibly with Mercenaries. But that's 2 out of what, 12 factions? It's not horrible.
I mean, we are seeing, from what Kevin said earlier, we are seeing that Mercenaries is starting to be somewhat defined by a theme list, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the competitive and tournaments, you're seeing Kingmaker at almost all of them. And this wasn't prevalent a few months ago, and now it's, you know, it's been seen a lot more than any time we're seeing somebody who is playing Mercenaries, at least one of their lists involve Kingmaker.
Yeah, and it's a situation where I've actually seen several pairs where it's, I'm playing Mercenaries, my one list is Kingmaker, and I'm running, you know, I'm running through Kingmaker with that list, and my second list is Exelon with Operation Theater. And I'm right now, Suffix is kind of an issue because they have to be in theme. You literally cannot play that side of the faction without being in a theme list. But it's like, you're seeing Mercenaries that's coming in, and you throw the Rulik one into the situation. I am seeing people looking at the Rulik one as playing. It becomes a situation where every time you look at a Mercenaries list, you have a good chance of seeing 2 theme lists on their 2-list pairing. That feels bad to me. Like, maybe I'm completely off the wall. You Mercenary players out there, let me know. But is that not a concern of, if you're not playing one of the 3 themes, then you're not playing at peak performance? Now, there's some people who are like, look, I don't play competitively, so I don't care. Like, I'll just play whatever's funsy. You know, Fianna the Black, let's go. But what happens when Shay's pirate theme, when the theme, you know, the theme book for pirates comes out and it's Shay's pirate theme all over again, and then it's like, all right, well, you're either playing Kingmaker, Shay's Pirates, the Rulik, or Operation Theater. There's no vanilla lists anymore. Is that a world we want to live in?
That's more diversification than it was in Mark II.
It is. It's a lot more, I feel.
Because you just named off 4 lists where, you know, in Mark II, we maybe saw 2. So, I mean, maybe the theme forces aren't that bad because, I mean, especially if they're driving people to play other things. Especially when... especially when you think about it and you think that with how the theme forces are generated, you could literally play the same list with just 2 different casters, you know. But, you know, seeing different casters and different aspects of Mercenaries is kind of cool, though, you know. So I don't know. I think it's too early. Like, we haven't seen any of the super major competitive scenes or big tournaments happen since the errata. So I would be curious to see what happens with those.
Yeah, I agree. We're still in the winter lull. We should be rolling out. We got LVO, so we should be starting to roll out of that from the national meta. And maybe, you know what, we'll use this as a perfect opportunity to ask, for those of you who are listening, post on our Facebook feed or post on our YouTube channel, what is your meta rolling out to? Where do you see it going for the next 5 months? And do you have a concern over themeless being the only way to play? So, but Hordes. Now, you already said that Trollbloods, you're seeing a lot of people who are playing in the themes for Trollbloods.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's going to kind of be the standard for the next 5 months, or are people just still kind of playing with their new toys?
I think what it's doing, and honestly I'll say this, is that you still can play super beast heavy, and you can play these big beasts like we have, but I think what the troll players at least are enjoying currently is that being a support faction, a faction that needs a lot of support, you know, and we love the ability to have those buffs and stuff in our faction, with the way that some of the things were repointed in Mark III, it kind of makes it a little bit harder for us. So sometimes we do have to make those choices of, hey, do we bring a fell caller? Do we bring a chronicler? Do we bring this, And with a support faction, that can be a little bit rough because then, we're already paying a troll tax because we have all the support, but we can't bring that support. So something I can definitely say that Band of Brothers has done is it allows us to bring the amount of support that we might need if we are taking, units and stuff like that. So that's definitely been super beneficial, and I think a lot of the troll players are really enjoying that, being able to get that stuff for free and allow them to have the amount of support that they feel that they actually need.
What else do we need to go through?
Well, Circle's coming up here soon, and we know that we're going to be getting the rise and hopefully fall of Una 2 and Kaya 3.
Was that a flying joke?
As Loki, as well as Loki. Where I don't know about you guys, but I think Circle still falls in that they're playing for the scenario, or they're pushing the scenario but playing for assassination.
I think assassination's always in their back pocket.
I think so too. Yeah.
You don't think they're actually designing for it?
I don't. I think that at least, I can't say too much on the design because I'm not there, but I can definitely say that I feel that I definitely feel like a lot of this stuff is kind of leaning that way, or at least they have so much tools in their toolbox that they can usually pull it off,
Mm-hmm.
And that's one reason I don't think we're going to see a lot of the Circle theme faction, because of the fact that they feel like it limits what's in their toolbox to bring, and so therefore they don't want to use it because they would rather have all of the pieces they need to be able to do both the assassination and scenario game, and I think the theme force limits that.
Yeah, I mean that's almost verbatim what I had a conversation with Ford about, and that's kind of a similar feeling that he has. Is like, could I take a theme? Yeah, I could, but I'm losing some of the diversity that I want to have in my list, so I'm not really super excited about the themes, so I'm just not going to take them.
Yep, that's exactly how I feel about it. And I don't even play Circle, but looking at it, that's how I would feel like they would go with it.
So, Scorn, go back one episode. You'll hear our thoughts on Scorn. Some
of those thoughts are a little wrong, but
yeah. And how they're going to shape out over the next couple of months, which leaves our beautiful Legion, which seems to be the redheaded stepchild amongst the community. Like, I have not seen a lot of people super excited about Legion, like, even slightly.
Yeah, other than like the Jake Van Meters of the world, I don't really see it. I haven't really seen it a lot in general. I know David Brown of our local meta, he plays them, and he doesn't. Even he hasn't said too much about them. So
yeah, they've been laying low pretty much, and I don't know if that's a reflection of some of the Legion players are just kind of waiting for the excuse the term, professional Legion players to kind of show the way the meta goes, but I don't necessarily see a lot of innovation happening, a lot of discussions happening around what is Legion doing in the Mark III, which is bad for the player who's like, I'm trying to find my way and I don't know where to go, but could work out in their favor because nobody's expecting Legion in their tournaments at the moment. Nobody
expects the Inquisition.
So my big question on that is do we feel that Privateer Press in all of their changes had neutered Legion too much?
I don't think so.
Because, the reason we saw the rise of Wormwood was because of the changes to Isla's Sight. Wormwood has always been a good caster, but he had a Apex Predator that kind of kept him in check. And as soon as that got removed, that's when we saw the extreme rise of Wormwood. Now the question is it the fact of Legion just doesn't know where they fit into the food chain because their major shticks, if you would say, aren't exactly prevalent anymore?
I think the issue with Legion is that they had such an overhaul done to the way of life from Mark II to Mark III that I think Legion players are still trying to identify what the hell direction PP was trying to take Legion. Most of the successful champions of a faction, the reason that they are successful is because they're able to decipher and decode what Privateer's intentions were with their rule sets for their faction faster than the rest of us. They quickly identify, oh, I see this, and this. They kind of see the weaves of fate of a faction when they're looking at the cards that the rest of us don't necessarily see immediately, and that causes them to rise up and become champions of their faction because they basically can be like, okay, everybody, this is what I've seen, here's the research I've done, and I've been able to prove it with my list for performance at national metas. That's kind of what causes a sort of cyclical, people watching their champions, watching their faction champions, and what they do and get, glean the information. That's kind of like copying notes off of the Brainiac in the class. Like the Brainiac figured it out, I'm going to copy their notes, and then I will learn myself when I play the list and get the muscle memory behind it. And I think that there isn't necessarily, I think a lot of the Legion players, with the exception of JVM, because he's already had some early success in Mark III, I think a lot of the Legion champions are still kind of like, Privateer Press, what the hell are you doing? Like, we don't know what you're doing here. So they can't necessarily unlock the intentions of design within their faction, which is just causing turmoil throughout the entire faction.
I could see that.
Yeah, I could too. Makes a lot of sense.
And then last but not least, the faction that does not exist, Minions. I had an interesting conversation with Gaston about this, about the fact that Minions aren't a faction.
Has the new No Quarter just came out, and that has their new theme force in it, doesn't it?
Their new No Quarter, I think it's the next one that's going to have, I think it's the April one that's going to have Blindwater Congregation in it.
Yeah, I believe, that one does.
General 1812 is chomping at the bit for that theme force.
It doesn't... I mean, unless it does some major changes to Gatorman Posse, I don't see it being a very strong list, personally.
I have no idea what they're going to do to that list. I honestly don't. Because I agree with you. If there's not something to do that's going to make Croaks amazing or Gatorman amazing, I don't know what they're going to do. Beyond making sure that you have to take Wrong Eye and Snapshot in the theme list. One of the things that we had an interesting debate about it, and was like the prevalent theme is that Minions have so many options available to them because now you can cross factions and there's no longer this divide between pigs and gators, and you can have all this crossover and all that, which theoretically is true, but isn't at the exact same time. Because yes, you can now take Targ in a Gator list, or you can now take Brigands in a Gator list, or you could take Posse if you really, really wanted to in a Pharaoh list. But you can't. There's no. If a huge portion of your list is still the battle groups are still bound. You can't have a Gator caster taking pig battle group pieces. So, on the holistic scale, is it combined? Yeah, sort of. Like, you have access to infantry, but you don't have access to some of the synergies that might happen with a Gator caster and a Pig Warbeast, or a Pig caster and a Gator Warbeast. So they're still technically two separate armies. So, and I think that Minions are in a better place than they used to be. I don't necessarily think they are in the place that Privateer is trying to paint. Well, you could do anything in Minions. Actually, you can't.
But I think eventually they will get to that place. I don't think they're too far off.
You'd have to unlock the battle groups.
That's true.
You'd either have to unlock the battle groups, or you're going to need to start putting more things into the game, like the Ifrit Scouts, that are we're not Gator, we're not pigs, we're minions. Like, I almost feel like if they really want to crack minions open, Dr. Arcadius 2 needs to come out, and he needs to have an unbound or a non-limit to his battle group. He's not a pig nor a Gator caster, so let's get these things to play together.
How cool would it be if we started seeing mutated Gators? You know, like Arcadius does his fun stuff with Gators. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like that's the only direction that, if they're going to truly unlock minions, they need to start introducing less Blind Walker and Pharaoh pieces and more generic minion pieces. Like, one of the things that me and Gaston were talking about was, we originally thought that the whole Grimkin thing was going to be a third pack that would bridge the gap. And then we end up finding out that it's actually a standalone faction.
That's true. All right. Anything else? Do we get to wrap up?
I think for the most part, when it comes to the next 5 months, I hate to say it because we've been doing so much of it lately, I honestly feel like we're still waiting. I still feel like we're waiting for command books. We're waiting for 17. We're waiting for a clear design path from Privateer Press. And I think a lot of people are still frustrated by it. Like, they were honestly looking for the errata to give us the path that we were looking for, because they've been waiting so long since Mark II to Mark III, and now we're still left with this waiting feel. I think the metas are gonna stagnate. That's honestly my prediction. Like, the next 5 months, I think we're gonna stagnate.
That's definitely something I've been seeing recently. Like, one of the things is the people who play Scorn in my meta, I've seen them more active than they have been in the last few months. But it sucks because the other players haven't been. There was one question I did want to bring up, and I wanted to get your guys' opinions on. I actually put up a post on the Privateer Press forums about it, just because I thought it was a topic that really needed to be addressed. But after seeing, so we saw before the Scorn errata that Privateer Press said that, they were only doing this for Scorn. They weren't going to do the same sort of thing for the other factions. My question is after seeing the success of the Scorn errata, do you think that they should change their standpoint on that? Do you think that all the factions should receive the same thing? Because I definitely feel like there's a lot of, prevalent holes in each faction that maybe another second look, like given to Scorn, might fix.
Go ahead, Tony.
I think for the most part, no. I think maybe I'd like to see something more for Crix. But that's really it. I really don't think that they should. I think most of the factions aren't that bad. What about Trolls? Because Trolls, since Scorn got their errata, Trolls have literally become the worst faction. So I think it was. I still disagree with that. I don't think they're the worst faction. I truly don't feel like they're the worst faction.
I think Crix might be having an issue with that statement.
I think a lot of Trolls' issues is that Madrak 2 was errated, and they're upset about it, and now they think they're the worst faction. I don't think that's the case. I truly don't. I think we barely have access to our lights, and I think that's a major issue. We have the least amount of war beasts of any faction. Yep. And you then take half of that for our lights, and you overcost them, or you make them absolutely very situational. There's no reason. And I can tell you this: before, I was a big advocate for the Winter Troll. Mm-hmm. And before Elemental Evolution came out, I was like, you could use him for this, you could use him for that. I physically can't find a use for him. So at all. Yeah. So I really think I think we should table this for another one, because I feel like this is going to be a very long conversation. Okay. And so I'll be honest, we're already at 50 minutes, so we do got to wrap this up.
Okay. I want to just throw in that I concur with Tony. I don't think that they need to be doing a full Scorn errata. I think that some of the factions like Trolls could benefit from something similar to what Khador did, where it's like, we're not going to change everything, But we're definitely going to adjust points on battle group stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So with everyone listening, let us know your thoughts. For next turn extension, I think this is something we should deep dive and let's talk about more. So I want to hear what the group's thoughts are, community's thoughts on this, and then we'll touch base on this, and we'll probably do the entire discussion next turn extension on it.
All right.
We're good? All right.
I'm good.
I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Turn Extension. Have a good one.